Imagine this. You're standing on an open field. A jet aircraft crosses the sky. You look up. At that exact moment, your visual cortex lights up. Billions of neurons fire in coordinated electrical pulses. Now imagine this. Those signals are recorded, sent to an artificial intelligence system. And seconds later, the system says, "You are looking at an airplane." Is that science fiction? Or is that happening right now? For decades, mind reading belonged to movies and conspiracy theories. But in the last 10 years, neuroscience and artificial intelligence have formed a powerful alliance. And that alliance is changing how we understand the human brain. But here is the crucial distinction. AI is not reading thoughts. It is decoding patterns. And that difference changes everything. Your brain is not silent. Every thought, image, or sound you experience is translated into electrical activity. Neurons communicate using tiny voltage spikes measured in microvolts. When you look at an airplane, light enters your eyes and is converted into neural signals. Those signals travel to the visual cortex in the occipital lobe. Different objects create different activation patterns. Not meaning. Not language. Patterns. This is the key. If those patterns are recorded using EEG, electroencephalography, fMRI, functional MRI, or implanted electrodes, they can be digitized. Once digitized, they become data. And once they become data, they can be analyzed by AI. Artificial intelligence does not understand airplanes. It detects statistical correlations. If pattern A appears frequently when you see airplanes, the AI learns. Pattern A equals likely airplane. It's classification, not telepathy. In controlled laboratory environments, researchers began asking a simple question. Can a machine predict what someone is looking at using only brain activity? Volunteers were placed inside fMRI scanners. They were shown thousands of images. Faces. Animals. Cars. Buildings. Airplanes. Each image produced a unique neural signature. Researchers trained deep learning models on these signatures. And something remarkable happened. The AI began predicting image categories with measurable accuracy. Not perfectly. Not magically. But statistically better than chance. In some experiments, researchers even reconstructed blurry versions of images based only on brain activity. This was not mind reading. It was signal decoding. But the implication was enormous. If you limit the possibilities, if you train the model carefully, if the brain is being actively recorded, AI can sometimes tell what category of object you're viewing. That includes something like an airplane. Let's slow this down. When headlines say, AI can read your mind, what they usually mean is something far more technical. In laboratory conditions, AI systems trained on brain recordings can classify what category of object a person is seeing, sometimes with 60% to 85% accuracy, depending on the method used. That sounds impressive. But here's what that really means. The subject is inside a scanner. They are shown a limited set of images. The AI is trained on thousands of examples from that same person. The choices are predefined. For example, airplane, dog, car, chair. The AI is not guessing freely from infinite possibilities. It is choosing between known options. That distinction matters. This is pattern recognition within constraints, not unrestricted thought reading. Not all brain recording technologies are equal. Let's compare the two most common systems. EEG measures electrical activity from the scalp. Advantages: portable, relatively inexpensive, real-time recording. Limitations: low spatial resolution, signals blurred by skull, very noisy, With EEG, AI can often detect left versus right hand intention, focus versus relaxation, recognition of familiar images. But decoding detailed object categories like airplane is much harder. Accuracy drops significantly. fMRI measures blood oxygen changes in the brain. Advantages: high spatial resolution, detailed brain region mapping. Limitations: large machine, extremely expensive, not portable, slow signal response. With fMRI, researchers have achieved much higher decoding accuracy for object categories. But it requires a hospital-grade machine, not a hidden device. There is no silent remote scanner. The physics does not allow it. This is where fear often replaces science. Let's talk physics. Brain electrical signals are measured in microvolts, millionths of a volt. They are extremely weak, rapidly degraded outside the skull, overwhelmed by environmental electrical noise. By the time those signals leave your scalp, they are indistinguishable from background interference. Satellites cannot detect them. Wi-Fi cannot capture them. Radio waves cannot decode them. The skull acts as a biological shield. To record usable signals, electrodes must be touching the scalp, or implanted inside brain tissue, or measuring blood flow changes in a sealed MRI chamber. There is no known mechanism in physics that allows long-distance thought decoding. That is not a policy limitation. It is a physical limit to where are we really. If you look at an airplane, and if your brain is being actively recorded, and if the AI is trained on your patterns, and if the categories are predefined, then yes, AI may classify that you are likely viewing an airplane. But it cannot read your internal monologue about the airplane. It cannot know whether you love flying, or fear it, or remember a childhood trip. That remains inside you. For now. So far, we've discussed classification. Airplane or dog. Car or chair. But researchers didn't stop there. They asked a more ambitious question. Instead of choosing from categories, can AI rebuild the image itself? In recent experiments, participants were placed inside fMRI scanners and shown thousands of images, landscapes, faces, objects, street scenes. Every image triggered a unique pattern across the visual cortex. Instead of training AI to select labels, researchers trained generative models to translate brain activity back into images. The result? Blurry, imperfect, but recognizable reconstructions. If a person looked at a tiger, the AI-generated image resembled a striped animal shape. If they looked at an airplane, the reconstruction showed something metallic, winged, sky-oriented. It wasn't a photograph. It was a probabilistic approximation. But scientifically, it was extraordinary. Your visual cortex is organized. Edges, motion, orientation, and shapes are processed in structured layers. Early visual areas detect lines, angles, movement, contrast. Higher areas process objects, faces, categories. When AI models are trained on paired data of brain activity plus actual image, they learn correlations between activation maps and visual features. Modern systems often use deep neural networks similar to those used in image generation. In some recent studies, researchers even combined brain scans with diffusion-based image models, systems similar in architecture to advanced generative AI. The AI does not see inside your mind. It solves an inverse problem. Given this neural pattern, what image is statistically most likely to have caused it? That's mathematics, not telepathy. And it works because perception follows biological structure. Now comes the important boundary. These reconstructions require thousands of training images. Work best on the same individual. Occur inside controlled lab conditions. depend on high-resolution brain imaging. They do not extract spontaneous thoughts, decode imagination freely, read abstract ideas, capture memories at will. If you close your eyes and imagine an airplane, decoding becomes dramatically harder. Internal imagery is weaker and more variable than visual input. Even with advanced AI, the signal-to-noise ratio drops significantly. The brain is not a camera. It is a dynamic, distributed system. Reconstruction works best when the brain is responding to structured, repeated stimuli. Real life is far more chaotic. AI can reconstruct approximations of what someone is seeing, under strict, technical, and physical constraints. That is groundbreaking. But it is not unrestricted mind reading. And that difference is critical for understanding both the promise and the fear surrounding this technology. So far, everything we've discussed happens inside laboratories. Large machines, controlled environments, carefully trained models. But neuroscience is moving beyond scanners. A new frontier is emerging: brain-to-computer interfaces, or BCIs. One of the most well-known companies in this field is Neuralink. Their approach involves implanting ultra-thin electrode threads directly into brain tissue. Unlike EEG, which reads blurred surface signals, implanted electrodes detect neuron firing much more precisely. In recent medical trials, paralyzed patients have used such systems to move computer cursors, type messages, control robotic devices. This works because the implant detects motor intention signals, patterns associated with movement planning. But here's the crucial boundary. Even implanted devices decode specific trained intentions, not unrestricted thoughts. They read signals the system was designed to capture. Nothing more. Portable brain reading devices already exist, but at limited capability. EEG headsets can detect focus, detect drowsiness, detect simple intention patterns. But decoding complex visual categories like airplane with high accuracy still requires advanced imaging systems. Why? Because the skull distorts electrical signals. Because neurons fire in overlapping networks. Because meaning is distributed across billions of cells. There is no single airplane neuron. Your brain encodes perception across layered cortical maps. Portable systems face a physics constraint. The farther you are from the neurons, the less precise the signal. Until we discover new sensing technologies that bypass biological shielding, something currently unknown to physics, portable thought reconstruction will remain limited. Now we arrive at the real tension. If AI can decode what you see even partially, what does that mean for privacy? Today, brain recording requires physical equipment. It requires consent. It requires calibration. It requires cooperation. No known technology can secretly extract usable neural data from a distance. But the ethical conversation is not about today. It's about trajectory. If implants become common for medical reasons, if brain-to-computer interfaces become consumer devices, if neural data becomes digitized, then brain signals become data streams. And wherever data exists, security becomes relevant. The question is no longer, can AI read my mind right now? The real question is, how should society regulate neural data before it becomes widespread? Because once something is technically possible, it eventually becomes commercially optimized. We are not at the end of mental privacy, but we are at the beginning of neural decoding. This technology was once science fiction. Now it is early-stage science. The direction forward will not be decided by physics alone, but by ethics, law, and design. We've explored classification. We've explored reconstruction. We've explored implants and ethics. Now we must confront the deeper question. If AI can decode neural patterns, does that mean it understands the mind? The answer is no. AI systems operate through statistical inference. They detect correlations between input signals and outputs. When your visual cortex activates in a certain configuration, the AI calculates probabilities. It does not know what an airplane means. It does not experience flight. It does not imagine the sky. It maps pattern A to label B. That is computation, not awareness. Human thought is layered. Sensory processing, memory, emotion, context, personal meaning. Neural decoding only touches the surface layer, perception signals under constrained conditions. Consciousness remains something else entirely. It's tempting to imagine the brain as a readable document. But it isn't. There is no central file labeled airplane. No stored image waiting to be extracted. Thoughts are dynamic processes. Temporary electrical storms distributed across networks. Even if we could record every neuron simultaneously, we would still face interpretation limits. Why? Because meaning is not located in one place. It emerges from interaction. When you look at an airplane, your brain doesn't just process shape. It may activate memories of travel, fear of turbulence, excitement of exploration, personal associations. Those layers are not cleanly separable signals. They overlap. They blend. They evolve in milliseconds. AI can classify stimulus-driven patterns. But decoding subjective experience is a different category of problem. So where does this leave us? AI can analyze recorded brain signals. AI can predict with probability what category of object you are viewing. AI can reconstruct approximate visual inputs under laboratory conditions. But AI cannot freely read your internal monologue, extract abstract beliefs, access hidden memories, interpret personal meaning. And it cannot do any of this without direct physical recording. The phrase AI sees through your brain is dramatic. The reality is more precise. AI analyzes measurable neural patterns under defined constraints, using mathematical models. That is powerful. But it is not omniscient. The human mind remains adaptive, distributed, contextual, partially opaque even to itself. Technology may advance. Resolution may improve. But understanding the mind is not only a technical challenge. It is a philosophical one. And perhaps that is reassuring. Because while machines may decode signals, meaning still belongs to the person experiencing it. If you look at an airplane, and your brain signal is recorded, and an AI is trained on your neural patterns, it may classify that you are seeing an airplane. But it cannot know what that airplane means to you. And that distinction between signal and significance is where human identity still resides.
Subscribe Info Beyond Borders now for more mind-blowing knowledge.